Fields of research include da'wah in Europe, da'wah in multicultural environments, modern Islamic thought and ideologies, and Islam in post-Soviet Russia. The title of her PhD thesis is Islamic Da'wah in Europe, France, Italy as case studies. Dr. Lisnyansky will speak today about the Muslim Brotherhood in France, Crescents and Croissants.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me, and congratulations on your latest wonderful achievement, Professor Shavit. Today, once we approach such a case as, let's say, Muslim Brotherhood in France, or any other European country, perhaps the first question we should ask ourselves is whether there is a connection between the Muslim Brotherhood as we know them in the Middle East or in the North Africa and with the Muslim Brotherhood affiliated organizations in Europe, especially in France. The second question, which I would ask also, is of course connected to the first one, and it is whom do the Muslim Brotherhood affiliated organizations, who do they represent in France? And when we speak about the Muslim Brotherhood in France, perhaps the first organization we should speak about is, in fact, an umbrella-like organization, which includes more than 250 organizations, Muslim organizations. I, of course, speak about the UIF, the Union of the Islamic Organizations of France. It is, as I said, an umbrella-structured organization, and it houses several organizations such as FNEM. First of all, it's an educational organization. It's a national Muslim organization in France, and it deals mostly with private schooling. What it actually does is that it approaches the existing private schools. Muslim schools are almost always private in France. It approaches the managements of these schools and offers them their directions. They say that they offer contents and, of course, subsidies and scholarships. And then the schools that are, in fact, signing a contract with FNEM, which is, as I said, federal national organization that has a lot to do with the French Ministry of Education, they, in fact, get the supervision, on one hand, of the Ministry of Education, and on the other hand, they get the supervision of this Muslim Brotherhood affiliated organization, as you have already said, the UIF. Perhaps if you go back for a second, then one would see that, well, at first I started with asking one question: how do we know that these organizations are in fact affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood? Well, the Muslim Brotherhood is in fact everywhere, in every territory that it exists. It usually looks and searches for three objectives. The first objective that they have is education, and this is why I have started with FNEM. The second objective is, of course, dawah, which is Islamic preaching and sometimes Islamic propaganda. And it is done mostly through imams, and this is what I'm going to speak about in the next few minutes. And the third objective is, of course, zakat, which is charity. So after we've spoken about FNEM, the second one would be, of course, Aish. Aish is European Institute of Humanities Sciences, which in fact is a whole line of imam training, meaning that the students that go there are going to a college. It is built like a college. By the way, Aish has four filials, 4 branches, 2 of them being in France, and I'm sorry, 5, yes. 2 of them in France, 2 of them in the UK, in Birmingham and in Wales, and the 5th is in Germany. So, in fact, the imam training is being done yet only in France, in one of these 5 branches. And these imams are, after that, spreading all around Europe and are, in fact, one could say that they are the first layer of imams that were European-bred imams, meaning that if we would speak about the matter of things before 2009, most of the imams that were working in France and in Europe were imams who were perhaps born in Europe, and they were second generation already, but they got their education and especially their training as imams in Saudi Arabia or Egypt or any other Arab country. Whilst since 2009, there was a decision made, especially in France, and this decision led to a construction of an imam training facility inside Aish. Hence, most of the imams right now in France are, in fact, local imams who get their training inside France. But which training do they get, in fact? If we are speaking about Aish, we understand that we are talking about a Muslim Brotherhood affiliated facility, meaning that the training these imams are getting is, of course, sponsored by the Muslim Brotherhood, if not by, let's say, if not by finances, then by the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood. Hence, the imams that are being spread all over Europe and give, in fact, dawah to Muslim communities and train Muslim communities are, most of them, as I've said, they are affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood. And of course, we were talking about the third objective that the Muslim Brotherhood affiliated organizations have, and this is the zakat. And the UIF also has this third branch, which is called CBSP, Charitable Committee to Support Palestinian People. CBSP is connected with Hamas, and all of its profits, in fact, all of the charity that it gets, it sends to Hamas. Since Hamas is being the sole representative of the Muslim Brotherhood on Palestinian soil. Also, it is, of course, placed under the UIF umbrella and has a lot to do with conventions that the UIF leads in France. The conventions that I'm speaking about is, most of them are called, yes, many people. Most of them are being held in Le Bourget. Le Bourget is a facility in northern Paris. And every year they have a convention like that we can see here. What is the most important, perhaps, to say about Le Bourget is that it's not being announced as the Muslim Brotherhood Convention. It's being announced as just a Muslim convention, and Muslims from all over France are coming, of course, never mind if they're not a Muslim Brotherhood affiliated. Some of them are Salafis, some of them are liberal, some of them don't even have any affiliation. They are just Muslims, and they come there in order to meet all kinds of Muslim businesses. By the way, it's also a place of networking for small businesses, which is also important. This way, it's a possibility to maintain a network of acquaintances and of all kinds of relationships between organizations that are, as I've already said, Muslim Brotherhood affiliated, but also not only Muslim Brotherhood. What, in fact, is happening in Le Bourget, one can see when we approach the lectures there and also the pavilions. Le Bourget is dealing, or at least it's supposed to deal, with relevant issues for French Muslims, for Muslims in France. In fact, who knows what is, let's say, a matter of interest for Muslims in France? I believe only Muslims in France, and after speaking with many of them, I have discovered that the issues that they are relevant for them are, first of all, the issue of integration or disintegration inside the French society. Also, there are a lot of issues regarding identification, meaning whether their children are feeling themselves as Muslims, whether they are identifying themselves as Muslims, and what kind of Muslims. Also, it's very important. So, along with that, there are other issues that are important enough for French Muslims. And these issues are being promoted very widely by the UIF, such as the issues of the Islamic nation in a whole, of the Islamic Ummah. And if before Professor Weissman was speaking about the questions of Islamic Ummah as a whole, meaning that there were Islamic organizations that were concerned that the Islamic Ummah is being hurt in one place or another. Of course, the same is regarding the Muslims in France, meaning the questions of Syria, for instance, are very important. And as we have seen already, the questions of Palestine are also very important. The whole Palestinian case is, let's say, if there is a charity that is meant to help, a whole charity that is meant to help only Palestinians, meaning that it has a lot to do with the interests and the issues that are relevant to French Muslims. Also, there is a big, I would say, huge question. The first question that I've asked is linked to this question. It's a question that everybody is asking themselves when they approach the problem of Islam in Europe. Are these people who are affiliating themselves with the UIF, for instance, do they understand that they are actually affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood or not? Is it the same or not? Let's say Amar Lasfar, who is the head of the UIF, would say now that, of course not. There is not a connection whatsoever between the UIF, I mean, regarding what he says. He claims that there is no connection between the UIF and the Muslim Brotherhood, whereas there are many other quotations of him before he became the chair of UIF, when he said that, of course, there is a very big connection between the UIF and between the FIOE, which is the Federation of Islamic Organizations of Europe, to the Muslim Brotherhood, the global Muslim Brotherhood meaning. And we can see here the symbolics, of course. We can see the symbol of Rabba. I believe everybody knows this symbol. And it happened, of course, after the Arab Spring, and spread all over every convention that was dedicated to what was going on in Egypt, especially from the Muslim Brotherhood point of view. And on the Le Bourget Convention that was held that year, this symbol was very, very prominent. This symbol was in every pavilion that was in this facility. Also, we are speaking about symbols, and I really have to mention at least two of them when speaking about the Muslim Brotherhood in France. The first symbol would be not French, but of course Muslim Brotherhood, at least affiliated again. I really use a lot this word because this is what it is. They are affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood without saying that they are. And of course I'm speaking about Tariq Ramadan, who is the grandson of Hassan al-Banna. Tariq Ramadan is not French. He was born in Switzerland. Nevertheless, he is the symbol of the French Muslim Brotherhood, and he is a prominent symbol of Muslims in France. He is a prominent symbol of the youth, Muslim youth all over Europe, especially in French-speaking countries. And another symbol of the, by the way, he is one of the people who never misses Le Bourget conventions. So every year he's there. He was there in April 2015. He's supposed to be there in the end of March now in 2016. He is a keynote speaker on these conventions. So this is, of course, a symbol for the UIF, meaning, look at us. We have Hassan al-Banna's grandchild coming to every convention of ours. So the symbolics is very prominent here. Also, if you can see, there is the lining that says Tawhid. Tawhid is a publishing house in France, a Muslim publishing, and it owns the rights to publish in French all publications of Hassan al-Banna. So all his writings are being published in France through Tawhid. By the way, they have a lot of other literature there. Of course, they have all the CDs. They are still selling them as CDs of Tariq Ramadan's lectures during the Le Bourget conventions. And they, of course, have all the CDs of all their prominent Muslim Brotherhood affiliated scholars. And there's Laroche Market. It's very nice. You can see that there are all kinds of merchandise for every Muslim who would like to say, keep smiling, it's sunnah, and all kinds of other nice ideas. But also there is a lot of politics there. For instance, after Charlie Hebdo, these shirts were sold during the Le Bourget convention. Je suis Mohammed. What does it mean? It means that, first of all, there was a huge, I would say, tremendous feeling amongst the Muslims of France that they are being persecuted after Charlie Hebdo. I'm not even going to speak about what happened after the last Paris attacks, but because we have a little bit more perspective on what happened after Charlie Hebdo, I would speak about that and tell that, in fact, many Muslims have decided that it's enough to be so apologetic and to keep apologizing for something that they haven't done. But in fact, these shirts with Je suis Mohammed were sold out in the first couple of hours that they appeared, and then the pavilion where they were sold was suddenly closed. Somebody just closed this pavilion because they were very afraid. I mean, the organizers of the Le Bourget convention, they were afraid that they would be suspected as non-patriots enough in France, which is also an interesting point, I believe. The UIF is very controversial, and not only the UIF, the Muslim Brotherhood in France is very controversial, mainly due to the fact that they say that they are not Muslim Brotherhood. So a person who used to be a Muslim brother inside the UIF, and I mean Mohamed Louisi, who you can see here. Mohamed Louisi has opened a blog where he says that he will go open and he would expose every criminal and every banned activity that the UIF is doing against France's values, meaning that, for instance, one of Louisi's friends, Soufiane Zeytouni, that I didn't bring his picture today because he is, he goes through a very rough trial right now, so I didn't want to expose him even more. Soufiane Zeytouni, who is his friend, he was a teacher in Lycée Averroès. Lycée Averroès is the first secondary school that was opened by the UIF through FNEM, the education organization I've mentioned before. And in this lycée, he taught philosophy. But in fact, he was shocked, I'm quoting him, by the contents that were taught there. He went out to the press and told them, after 4 months of just being there, that these children, Muslim children who are going to this Muslim private school, which was, by the way, which was the best school and got the best marks in 2013. It was marked as the best secondary school and the best lycée in France, amongst all lycées, not just Muslims. So Lycée Averroès, as he says, is being a place where a jihadi dawah is being made against French people. Meaning this school, as he said, was in fact a place of dawah hostile to France. By the way, there were 2 students that were supposed to go to Syria to fight inside ISIS rows after they finished Lycée Averroès. So he used this fact in order to explain how big and how bad was, in fact, this dawah, and how it had a huge impact on the Muslim students. So Mohamed Louisi exposed these facts and many more in his blog, as I have said. And the UIF, of course, said that they have nothing to do with this and that these are, of course, private deeds of teachers that were already fired because, well, it was not our policy, as I've said it. It was something that the teachers decided to do by themselves. So the main claims against UIF are the following. First of all, the main claim is about tamkin and tautin, meaning the terminology that is being used by, first of all, Amar Lasfar, who is the head of the UIF. Amar Lasfar has wrote, it's not even a manifest, it's a kind of a paper where he explains what kind of ideology the UIF should seek. And he has proclaimed the main purpose of being in France, meaning why Muslims are supposed to be in France or in Europe at all. He has proclaimed as the main mission the fact that French people should understand that Muslims are there to stay. So tamkin, from the word makan, a place, to find a place, and tautin is to become a citizen, not just a citizen, but to proclaim France and every other European place as a place of Islam. We are speaking about Abd of Islam against Abd of Dawah, and these terms, of course, some of you know them very well. For the ones who don't know them, I will just give a very brief explanation. Abd of Islam is every place, according to the Sharia, every place where the Islam rules. Abd of Dawah is a relatively new term of the places that used to be called Abd of War, meaning places that were not Abd of Islam and had to be conquered in the future. So when some are speaking about these terms as something that ISIS would like to do, meaning to conquer the world again, the Muslim Brotherhood, of course, doesn't speak in terms like this. But it is a very interesting fact that the head of the UIF found it positive and possible to write these words in his paper. So another accusation is the fact that they are affiliated with the Global Muslim Brotherhood, which is not an accusation, in fact, because, well, even if it's not a real fact, the fact is that the ideology that they are spreading inside France is very similar to the Muslim Brotherhood ideology. The fact that they are closely affiliated with Hassan al-Banna's siblings is Hassan al-Banna's grandchild is also, well, it says also something about the understanding of the UIF. And of course, there is another claim, which is, well, okay, in the next 2 minutes I will speak about it. There is integration of French Muslims, meaning that the people who are talking against the UIF, such as Mohamed Louisi or Soufiane Zaitouni or Caroline Forest or Fiumet Avener, all of them are being, well, as Amar Lasfar called them, haters of Islam, not just of UIF, of Islam and Muslims. They say that UIF is working in order to disintegrate French Muslims. But in fact, it's not a very true claim, because the Muslim Brotherhood in France, in fact, is integrating French Muslims. Because while we are speaking about Muslims in France as people who need to be integrated or disintegrated, it's not even important anymore, because there is a second and third generation of Muslims in France. They have already born in France. Just 1 minute, okay? They were already born in France, and hence they do not need to be integrated inside the society that they are being a part of it. Well, maybe my last words today would be that integrating Islam is perhaps the real purpose of UIF. Integrating Islam into France rather than integrating Muslims, because the Muslims don't need integration. They're already part of Europe. Thank you very much. I promised croissants, but, you know.
Many thanks to Dr. Lisnyansky, and this marks the end of this session. Thank you.